Hey there, history buffs and scandal seekers. Welcome back to Snikerspot, the only channel where the past is always present and maybe a little bit shady. Today, we're putting on our detective hats and grabbing our magnifying glasses because we're about to uncover the hidden lives of some of history's biggest icons. You see, history is rarely black and white. It's a tapestry woven with threads of brilliance, bravery, and, let's face it, a whole lot of blunder. And sometimes those blunders are so big, so mind-blowingly unexpected that they make you question everything you thought you knew about these legendary figures. So get ready to have your minds blown, because today we're diving deep into the scandals, the controversies, the downright shocking truths about these famous figures that they definitely didn't teach you in school. Trust me, you'll never look at a textbook the same way again. All right, let's kick things off with a founding father, a man whose words sparked a revolution and shaped a nation, Thomas Jefferson. You know him, you love him, or maybe you don't. The dude who penned the Declaration of Independence, proclaiming that all men are created equal. Powerful stuff, right? Except there's a teensy tiny problem with that whole all men are created equal thing. You see, Tommy J was a bit of a hypocrite. And by a bit, I mean a whole lot. While he was busy writing about freedom and equality, he was also, wait for it, a slave owner. And not just any slave owner, folks. We're talking hundreds of slaves. That's right, the man who championed liberty and justice for all had a workforce of enslaved people toiling away on his sprawling Virginia estate, Monticello. Ironic much? Now I know what you're thinking, but Perry, everyone owned slaves back then, right? And to that I say, sure, slavery was a widespread institution in colonial America. But here's the thing, Jefferson wasn't just any ordinary slave owner. He was a man of immense intellect, a scholar, a philosopher who grappled with the morality of slavery. He knew it was wrong. He even wrote about its evils. Yet he continued to profit from this brutal system, even fathering children with one of his slaves, Sally Hemings. Yeah, it's a messy, complicated, and frankly, uncomfortable truth. But here's the thing about history. It's not always pretty. It's full of contradictions, moral gray areas, and people who are products of their time. And Thomas Jefferson, for all his brilliance and contributions to democracy, was no exception. He was a man of contradictions, a champion of liberty who denied it to others, a writer who eloquently condemned slavery while perpetuating it in his own life. So, was he a visionary leader or a hypocritical villain? The answer, my friends, is not so simple. And that's the beauty of history, isn't it? It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths, to grapple with the complexities of the past, and to realize that even our heroes were flawed human beings. But hey, don't just take my word for it. Do your own research, explore the primary sources, and come to your own conclusions. Because history isn't just about memorizing dates and names. It's about understanding the people and events that shaped our world, warts and all. So the next time you see that iconic image of Thomas Jefferson, remember the man behind the myth, the complexities, the contradictions, and the enduring legacy of slavery that continues to haunt America today. It's a legacy that we must acknowledge and learn from to ensure that the ideals of liberty and justice truly apply to all. All right, let's journey across the globe now to India, where we meet another iconic figure, a man revered for his message of peace and nonviolence, Mahatma Gandhi. You know the drill-round spectacles, simple dhoti, leading peaceful protests against British rule. A true champion of peace, right? Well, hold on to your hats, folks, because Gandhi's story is a lot more complicated than the history books might have you believe. While there's no denying his pivotal role in India's independence movement and his unwavering commitment to nonviolent resistance, there's another side to Gandhi, a side that's often swept under the rug. Let's start with his views on race, shall we? Now remember, this is the early 20th century, a time when racial prejudices were, shall we say, a tad more overt. But even by those standards, some of Gandhi's views were, well, let's just say they haven't aged well. During his time in South Africa, where he spent his early years as a lawyer and activist, Gandhi made some pretty derogatory remarks about black Africans. He used racial slurs, argued for segregation between Indians and black Africans, and even went so far as to say that Indians were undoubtedly superior to black Africans. Yeah, not exactly the image of inclusivity and equality that we've come to associate with Gandhi, right? Now, some argue that these views were a product of his time, that he later renounced these beliefs, and that we should judge him by his actions, not his words. And it's true, Gandhi did evolve over time, and his later writings and speeches reflected a more inclusive vision of humanity. But these early writings and actions still raise uncomfortable questions about the man who became a global icon of peace and equality. And then there's the whole sleeping naked with young women thing. Yeah, you heard me right. In his later years, Gandhi practiced something he called brahmacharya, which is essentially a vow of celibacy. But here's where things get a little weird. To test his self-control, Gandhi would sleep naked with young women, including his grandnieces. He claimed it was a purely platonic practice, a way to purify himself and overcome his sexual desires. But even his most ardent supporters have struggled to explain away this behavior, which, let's be honest, seems more than a little creepy and inappropriate by today's standards. So what are we to make of Mahatma Gandhi? Was he a flawed saint, a man who preached love and equality while harboring prejudices of his own? Or was he a product of his time, a man who, despite his flaws, made significant contributions to the fight for justice and freedom? The answer, as with most things in history, is not so simple. It's up to each of us to grapple with the complexities of his legacy, to acknowledge both the good and the bad, and to recognize that even our heroes were human beings, capable of both great and terrible things. In the end, understanding Gandhi means embracing the full spectrum of his humanity, with all its contradictions and complexities. Chapter 3. Albert Einstein, genius or jerk? Alright, let's wrap things up with a trip to the realm of physics, where we encounter a mind so brilliant, it redefined our understanding of the universe. Albert Einstein, you know him, you love him, or maybe you don't. The man with the crazy hair, the twinkle in his eye, and a brain that could unravel the mysteries of space and time. Einstein, the genius who gave us E equals mc squared, the theory of relativity, and a whole new way of looking at the cosmos. But behind that brilliant mind, behind those groundbreaking theories, there was another side to Einstein, a side that was, shall we say, a little less than stellar. You see, Einstein, the man who unlocked the secrets of the universe, couldn't quite seem to figure out this whole relationships thing. He was married twice, had numerous affairs, and his treatment of the women in his life was, well, let's just say it wouldn't fly in today's world. Now, I know what you're thinking, Perry. We're talking about a genius here. Surely we can forgive a little infidelity in the name of scientific progress, right? And to that I say, hold your horses, folks. It's not just about the affairs. It's about the way he treated the women in his life, particularly his first wife, Mileva Marek. Mileva was no slouch herself. She was a brilliant physicist in her own right, and some historians believe she played a significant role in developing Einstein's early theories. But despite her intellect and contributions, Einstein treated her more like a housekeeper than a partner. He even made her sign a contract outlining her duties, which included serving him 3 meals a day, not speaking unless spoken to, and basically catering to his every whim. Yeah, not exactly the picture of a loving egalitarian relationship, right? And when Mileva became ill, Einstein basically shipped her off to a sanatorium and moved on with his life. Now, some argue that we should judge Einstein by the standards of his time, that relationships were different back then, and that his personal life shouldn't overshadow his scientific achievements. And it's true, societal norms were different in the early 20th century, and relationships were often viewed through a different lens. But even by those standards, Einstein's treatment of Mileva was pretty harsh. He essentially erased her contributions to his work, treated her like an employee rather than a partner, and abandoned her when she needed him most. So, what's the verdict on Albert Einstein? Was he a flawed genius, a man whose brilliance in physics couldn't quite translate to his personal life? Or was he a product of his time, a man whose flaws shouldn't overshadow his groundbreaking contributions to science? The answer, as always, is complex. We can admire Einstein's intellect and celebrate his scientific achievements, while also acknowledging his shortcomings as a husband and a partner. History, after all, is rarely about absolutes. It's about understanding the nuances, the complexities, and the messy realities of human lives, even the lives of geniuses. We must remember that even the brightest minds can have their shadows, and it's in these shadows that we often find the most profound lessons about humanity. So, there you have it, folks. A glimpse into the darker sides of some of history's most celebrated figures. We've seen the hypocrisy of Thomas Jefferson, the complexities of Mahatma Gandhi, and the personal failings of Albert Einstein. History is full of these kinds of contradictions, of heroes with flaws and villains with virtues. It's a messy, complicated tapestry, and the more we learn, the more we realize that there's always more to the story than meets the eye. The question is, what do we do with this knowledge? Do we tear down the statues, rewrite the textbooks, and erase these flawed figures from our collective memory? Or do we acknowledge their complexities, learn from their mistakes, and strive to be better than the generations that came before us?